Hey, folks, welcome. It is that time of the month where I get together with my two buds, Pete and Martin, and we do a countdown, an album countdown. And this month we're going to do Foreigner, which I'm sure everybody's heard of Foreigner. They were a big, major selling band in the 80s specifically, late 70s and 80s. And so we're going to go through all the records and we're going to rank them to the best of our ability. So, hang out and check the show out. So to help me in that endeavor, as always, we have Mr. Martin Popoff and Mr. Pete Pardo. How are you gentlemen doing?
Good. Doing okay. Looking forward to this one. Excellent.
This one should be fun. Okay, let me just say hello quickly to the few people that have joined us thus far. We have Gary Joyce, welcome. Louis Bagan, welcome. We've got Analog Kid, nice to see you. Drum Dude 74. Tyler Patterson. Okay, I'm just go down. We got everybody. Pete Brown, nice to see you. Kyle Hummel, welcome. John the Dark Wizard is with us. Cool. And Sal Randazzo, how are you doing? The Sal, mad one, RJ.
What's up, Sal?
There he is. I know where he's coming from. Oh, wow, everybody's piling in. Captain Beyond. All right, cool. All right, so yeah, man. Foreigner. What can you say? It kind of, you know what? We yesterday's show, Pete, we were talking about on your show we were doing that, best moments. And I mentioned the Aerosmith thing, and kind of Foreigner, kind of the same thing, right? They kind of started off, and then just got kind of harder and harder and harder, as they progress. But I don't want to give too much away. So how you guys doing?
Excellent.
Yeah, doing
excellent. Good. Busy. I think we're both arriving from different shows that we just did, right?
Never a dull moment today, man. Let me tell you. Like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
You guys are all over. All right. Okay. So, so we'll go around. There's only 9 records. So we'll start with everything's opposite Martin, and then we'll go Pete. So what's your least favorite Foreigner record, Martin?
Well, I'm going to go with the, one of the ones without Lou Gramm on it, your Can't Slow Down situation. I just find this a little bit too very behaved and safe. I mean, this band is like that anyways, but it's pretty corporate sounding. It's like Americana truck stop, hard rock, a little bit, a little bit Eaglesy even. I guess it reminds me of Hell Freezes Over, that whole situation, but not particularly. But they can sound a little bit like heavy Don Henley at times, I think, this band. But yeah, snappy snare drum sound, really clean, but still trying to be analog. Kind of maudlin in places. There's some sort of, things that remind me of John Waite, although I love John Waite as much as I love Foreigner. But yeah, just kind of middle of the road, not very heavy, but still trying to be up tempo and just a little bit too truck stoppy for me. So Can't Slow Down.
Alrighty. What's your number 9, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, this catalog is it's like a tale of two bands almost.
Yes.
The excellent early stuff, and then the latter part that is sprinkled with some good stuff, but some of the albums aren't really classic in my mind. And I'm going to agree with Martin. Can't Slow Down is my bottom one. I call it, this is their Walmart album, right? This is Walmart. Right. Isn't that where you have to buy this? Yeah. Like every time, you mentioned the Eagles and Kiss and AC/DC, it's like a Walmart exclusive, right? Yeah. I mean, it's really sad when the live stuff is better than the studio album, right? But I mean, it just sounds like it sounds like Foreigner, but it's like really safe, light Foreigner. I mean, I think the title track is the best song on the album, and that's the first song, and it goes downhill from there. It's not particularly awful. It's just not great either. It's almost like they just put this out to put something out because they haven't put out a studio album in so many years. And sometimes when that happens, the results aren't that good, right? You want a band to really want to do a new record, not just do a new record just to do one. And we'll make it kind of like a greatest hits and live all at the same time, and we'll throw some new songs in there. I don't know. It's just, to me, it just never smelled good from the beginning. In other words, but it's glossy, it's whatnot. I wouldn't. For most people, if maybe they know the big hits or the early albums, they're like, where else can I go in the catalog? I don't know if I'd send this to them next or that or after that or after that. It's not completely awful, but it's just, it's got Foreigner on the front, but
that's about it.
Yeah. So that's my number 9.
All right. Well, I'm going to differ from you guys. Surprise, surprise. But my number 9 is Inside Information, 1987. Very 80s style production with those, the airy keyboard sounds and a lot of kind of reverb ambience. I mean, the whole record for me just lies very, very flat. I mean, apart from, Lou's great singing. I mean, he's sort of the shining light in this, but I don't know. The songs are just really lackluster for me. Nothing really memorable here. Not even, I mean, they had a hit song off of this, but I mean, even that song is just, I mean, it's just like, it's so watered down and distilled. It's just, there's nothing there. The only song that I kind of dug was Beat of My Heart, because it had kind of a bit of a Zeppelin vibe to it. But yeah, apart from that, man, this record for me is kind of a dud. So Inside Information is my number 9.
Nice.
Alrighty. What do we got for number 8?
Inside Information. This band with these notoriously bad album covers, right? There's your bad front, your bad back, and kind of a decent gatefold with a shot of the 4 guys. But what bothers me about this album is there are some songs I really hate on here. These kind of R&B Hall and Oates sort of songs. In that department, I've got Say You Will. I've got I Don't Want to Live. There's kind of like a hip hop beat on Inside Information. Sounds like a Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
But there's 3 good heavy songs on here. Continuing Every Minute, The Beat of My Heart, which you mentioned, and A Night to Remember, which, Foreigner song called that. You'd think it was going to be crap, but it isn't. Good heavy song on there. Heart Turns to Stone was a little bit of a hit. I mean, this album went platinum. But 4 guys in the lineup. Again, just like Can't Slow Down, it's just very well. It's safe. All the Foreigner albums are in a real tight range. But I think what bothers me most about this one is I really, really like 2/5 to a half of it, and then I really dislike a bunch of songs on it. And yes, the keyboard sounds are horrible. They're really, really dated, annoying brain keyboard sounds. So there you go, number 8.
Yeah, they're one of the bands that definitely suffered from the 80s. Because they've got a lot of those, I mean, for me anyway, a lot of those sounds that I can't stand, because they are so dated sounding and cheesy, right? Yeah. All right, what do you got for number 8, Pete?
Well, I'm not going to deviate much. Inside Information. So, Martin and I did a show a couple weeks back about, what makes a album sound dated. Right here, this is it. Right, you took a band that had so much balls on those first couple albums, and you listen to this, is like, is this the same band? Even though I'll agree with you, there are a handful of pretty rockin' tracks on here, but the problem is, just like what Martin said, I like maybe 3-4 songs on here. The rest of them, I just don't give 2 craps about, and they just like don't interest me in the least. I will say, I really like Say You Will. I think that's pretty damn catchy, even though it is kind of limp, but I think amazing. But there's some good stuff on here, but the production I just can't stand. It just this is 1987, and you know it when you hear it, right? As soon as you start playing, it's like, I know exactly when that album was done. But yeah, that's my number 8 as well.
All right, well, my number 8, Mr. Moonlight, right? The return of Lou Gramm. '94 when this came out. It's just a slightly better than Inside Information due to the less '80s kind of glossy production, and it has a couple more decent songs for me than Inside Information. Um, Under the Gun isn't bad. I like the sort of instrumental thing they do called Big Dog. I mean, the guy's talking, but it's a really heavy instrumental. It's kind of cool. Nice to hear some sax, back in the band because there's some sax on that as well. This just has so many mellow mid-tempo songs where they just all, after a while, they all start to sound the same. It's like, wait, is that the song I just heard? It's the orchestration and the tempos and everything, and I don't know, it's just so saccharine, right? It just limp, The good limp is a good word, but yeah. So for me, that's my number 8.
Martin, I think Walmart is watching, and they're getting ready to send Hack a $50 gift certificate. Can't slow down in the bottom 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
All right. What do you got for number 7?
Number 7, another terrible album cover in Unusual Heat. It's the only album with Johnny Edwards from Montrose, Mean, King Cobra fame. What I like about, look at that album cover. Wow.
Terrible.
What I like about this album is, and I never thought I'd say this because I'm not a huge fan of those Bad Company albums with Brian Howe, but this sounds like a Brian Howe Bad Company album. It's quite bluesy and Badco and a little bit Zeppelin-esque in places. So yeah, I'm kind of happy about it for that reason. I don't really mind the production on it. I think the production is kind of cool as well. But yeah, Only Heaven Knows, kind of mid heavy Badco sort of sound on that. Moment of Truth, it's got a riff kind of like She's Too Tough. So yeah, this one kind of stands out and is an okay record. And I think it's got a little bit of, they stepped a little bit out of their personality to go for a little bit more of that southerny rootsy hair metal sort of thing. Adapting maybe a little to Johnny Edwards and stepping out of the standard Foreigner sound a bit on it.
Cool. All right. Number 7, Pete, what do you got?
Boy, Martin and I must have shared notes unwillingly. Unusual Heat is my number 7. I remember when I first heard Low Down and Dirty, which was the radio track they started playing before the album came out. And I was like, oh, first of all, I was like, that doesn't sound like Foreigner. And I was like, oh, that really rocks. Oh, that's the brand new Foreigner song. I'm like, wow. Hopefully the rest of the album will kick ass just like that. Yeah, not quite. I like his voice. I don't know if I really like him in this band, but I think he brings something different to the group. Obviously, they decided that it was not going to work past this album. But, Only Heaven Knows is pretty good. Moment of Truth is okay. I'll Fight for You. I mean, there's of course, too many ballads on here. The Rockers are okay. I think that's my kind of feeling about this album. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing spectacular. It's not terrible. This cover art is wretched. My God, what were they thinking? The more I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what in the world is this supposed to be? But yeah, it's okay. It's like a middle of the road, middle of the pack Foreigner album, and with Johnny, does it really work? Yeah, maybe not, but it's okay, I guess.
Well, for the trifecta.
Nice.
Number 7 as well.
That gift certificate to $150.
With Johnny Edwards. I mean, he sings
whatever
great.
You want. Laundry soap, toilet paper, whatever. So crazy.
With Johnny Edwards, I mean, he sings great, and I don't know, at times some of his inflections, I mean, he sounds a little like Lute to me at times. But Ready for the Rain is the song that really caught my ear. It's a really, really good song. It's got some beautiful, I mean, it's a mellow song, but it's got some beautiful melody to it. Moment of Truth is okay. I mean, it's got a little bit better mix of songs, and it's got more rocking stuff than the ones I mentioned earlier, but the mellower stuff is okay. Overall, it's a little better than, my number 8, my number 9. It's an okay album, but like you say, it's just an okay album. It's not something you'd go and reach for. Man, I really want to listen to Unusual Heat. It's not it's not one of those, right? So yeah, that's my number 7. Okay, cool.
All right.
Number 6. What do you got?
Okay. Pete and I actually did a Foreigner show a while ago, and I don't think I moved anything around at the lower end, but I moved some stuff around at the upper end. So it's interesting, but I didn't compare my notes. But I think this is roughly where it was before. Your Mr. Moonlight. I kind of like this album because it's experimental. It's not particularly heavy. I think the ballads are kind of good on it. Hole in My Soul I like on here. I Keep Hoping is kind of cool. All I Need to Know is kind of an up tempo, but ballad. I have basically in my notes a lot of good up tempo acoustic pop for White Lie. I like Big Dog as well. I like You Hack. I don't know why I have these two different covers on it, but yeah. So I found it a little bit interesting that it's different. It's great seeing Lou is back. I don't know that title, Mr. Moonlight's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's another just every album cover they botch, right? A bunch of a mess, and then they do this Mr. Moonlight over and over again, like they just type it out a bunch of times, right? It's like it's just weird, right? Don't even like their logo very much. But yeah, there you go. I think this is the other one that is a little bit different in the catalog.
Okay. What do you got for number 6, Pete?
I got Mr. Moonlight.
Wow.
Yeah. This should have been a big deal, right? Because these guys, this was a huge band, and I know the hardcore fans wanted to see him back in the band.
Yeah.
They got it, and just like nobody gave a shit. And like I can kind of like liken this to when Steve Perry went back to Journey and they did Trial by Fire, right? And that album did bang up business. I think this is a better album than that one, but yet that one did really, really well, and this didn't do much of anything. So yeah, I agree. It's different. It's a little dark. The ballads are pretty good. There's no real like big memorable songs on here, but what's on here is pretty solid, and I think Lou sounds great. It should have been a bigger deal, but I guess because it didn't have that kind of catchy runaway single on it is one of the main reasons why it didn't do well. And I don't even remember what label this originally came out on. Was this even on a major label, Martin? Do you remember?
Yeah, what have I got here? I've got it on Attic in Canada, so it came out on Attic here. Rhythm Safari in the States. So yeah, this is minor label stuff.
Yeah, that's what I have the Rhythm Safari one. So
Attic.
it's like, I honestly, I don't even remember this being in the store. I bought this way after the fact. So I just like did nothing. It was like invisible. And it's a shame because it's a pretty good album. And yeah, unfortunately didn't go anywhere. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Yeah. Well, I like this one a little more than you guys because this was both your number 9, but I got Can't Slow Down for number 6. Mm-hmm. This is the last album at this point with their longtime singer Kelly Hansen's been with them forever now, right?
Yeah.
He's he's a good singer. I actually saw Foreigner. This is a while back. They had Kelly Hansen was singing, and I was fortunate enough that Mick Jones actually played that show because Mick Jones is very sporadic with shows he plays, and Jason Bonham was the drummer at that time. So that was really cool. I was lucky to see that show. Ready is pretty good. Almost sounds like a Cheap Trick song. Give Me a Sign is cool. Too Late sounds very much like good old school Foreigner. This could have been on Foreigner 4, that song in particular. Lonely's a good track. Fool for You Anyway is great. Has an awesome Motown feel to it. I like when they do the Motown and then later on I'll mention they do some kind of 50s sounding stuff that I really dig. It's a good record. If I was to rate it out of 5, maybe a 3.5, but I do like it better than the ones I mentioned earlier. So just because it's got a little more, it's got some better songs on it. Right. So yeah, that's my number 6. Can't Slow Down. Alrighty. Number 5.
Okay. I definitely moved some things around here. So I've got number 5, Agent Provocateur, with that really cool, mysterious female secret agent on the streets of album cover. So I don't know what Agent Provocateur has to do with a big F, but this album cover gets an F. Yeah. So yeah, to me, I had this higher before. I love Tooth and Nail on here. It's one of my favorite Foreigner songs. She's Too Tough is a good heavy one on here. I Want to Know What Love Is. It's a perfectly good, excellent Foreigner ballad, and I actually don't like a lot of the Foreigner ballads. Especially the keyboardy ones. I like when they do acoustic guitar songs.
Yes.
A little later, Stranger My Own House was pretty heavy on here. I hate Down on Love. Don't like that was Yesterday either. So yeah, this moved down a little bit for me. It's a little paint by numbers. It's still following the great formula, and it was still a massive seller. Foreigner was huge still at this point. You did get embossing on the cover as well. That was kind of cool. Embossing on the back as well. But yeah, there you go. It's kind of a classy looking album cover. It's just kind of dumb, but there you go. My number 5.
Cool. What do you got for 5, Pete?
Yeah, the big F for Foreigner, I guess, right? So yeah, that's my number 5 as well. Martin and I have matched the whole way. Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those albums from them. It's an enormous album. Half of it I really like. The other half I'm kind of like a little indifferent to. I fully get that I Want to Know What Love Is, and That Was Yesterday were enormous songs. They're really good pop songs. I never need to hear either one of them ever again. Ever again. I mean, I saw them. I've seen them a couple of times, like over the last kind of 8 years, and I saw them. The last time I saw them was probably right before the pandemic. And when they play those songs, everybody goes crazy, and I'm bored. I'm like, I just my wife was totally getting into it, singing every line, and I'm like, come on, play the rockers, let's go. But there are some good rockers on here. I agree with Martin. Tooth and Nail is terrific. What a great way to open an album. So good. I love Reaction to Action. There's some really good rockers on here. I like the production of this album, actually. But I'm just so tired of the ballads. I'm really tired of the ballads. But it's a good album. It sold a shitload for a reason. And it's my number 5.
Yeah. Well, we got the trifecta again.
Cool.
Yeah. This and I was going back to the whole production thing. This has got all those 80s production trappings that I can't stand, but the songs are still so good that it got to number 5 because, Tooth and Nail. I mean, what an opener. That is an amazing freaking rock tune. Even though they have that sampling garbage going on, but I mean, if they stripped that song, just played it straight, it would be way better, but still a really good song. Reaction to Action. It's a cool rocker. My favorite track on this, though, is Stranger in My Own House. I love that song. That staccato riff over the verse is it's amazing. I love it. Just a killer tune. I'm not a big fan of the hits on here, That Was Yesterday and I Want to Know What Love Is, but those two songs, specifically Stranger in My Own House, those are killer tracks, man. I wish they'd recorded them again without all that, superfluous sampling and things that go in there and whatever, and they just played it straight because those are some really good heavy tunes, man. Really good heavy tunes.
How do you rate Mick Jones as a guitar player? I think he's very underrated. I've always been.
I'm gonna make some comments about like I've covered a lot of Foreigner songs, right, in bands and stuff, and he's got this. He's a great guitar player, but he's got this thing too, like this that nobody does. He's got this quirkiness to him. Right, and it's in some of his solos. They just sound like a kid scribbling, just like random stuff. But it just works. Like I mean, Dirty White Boy, Hot Blooded. Those solos are just I'm going to play this and I'm going to jump over here. Then I'm going to do this and I'm going to jump over here, and it's sort of like nonsensical. But then within the context of the song, it works, right? So he's got that thing going for him. He's a good there when he plays a straight lead though, man. Like he's right on, and he's always got that fantastic Les Paul tone that I obviously love. Yep. Right. So yeah, no, he's a really good player, and not a bad singer actually either.
Yeah, like his voice for sure. Before we move on, I want to show my Agent Provocateur tour program.
Nice.
First time anybody on YouTube has ever shown one of these.
See that? Sure. Unearthed from the Popoff vaults. Look at that.
Yeah, pretty bizarre. Okay, so this one moved down my list a little bit, one notch. Foreigner, the first one. Playing it again, I feel like And I think I just did a podcast episode on this. Or no, it was the one where I was comparing everything to the Police catalog, right? And to me, this feels a little bit like their Outlandos D'Amour or the Max Webster, just a tiny bit uncooked. I'm not fully on board with the well, I always hated the album cover. I hated the fact that this is just a put together band of a bunch of has-beens to start out with. It just seemed like a kind of a corporate situation. I don't think there's a particular unity to what they're trying to do here. Some magnetic songs and some good songs, but it sounds like a collection of songs. It doesn't really sound like a band to me. So I did move it down a little bit because I feel like the magic of Mick as this weird, I don't know how to even describe it better than you did, but there's something restrained and Beatle-esque and kind of like minimal about what he does, where he's kind of like hold back and make it heavy by just peeking through the door kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But this is a very conservative album. I don't think you really get the Foreigner sound yet on this album. So I moved it down to number 3. 5 times platinum, 1977.
Big album.
Well, that should have been your number 4, right?
Yes, that's my 4. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I rearranged my numbers here and I'm confused.
No worries. I just want to make sure I'm in line. All righty. What do you got for number 4, Pete?
I got Foreigner 4 for number 4. Yeah, I mean, enormous album, right? I've told this story before. I think when Martin and I did our show 3 years ago, I had an ex-girlfriend who I was dating when I was in college, and this album had just come out, and she played this to death. I mean, just to the point where it's like, I didn't want to hear this album again for many, many years. But then many, many years later, I was like, oh, it's really a really good album, actually. I mean, Nightlife is so good. Jukebox Hero is so good. Waiting for a Girl Like You is another one of those songs I never need to hear again. But the rest of the album is really good. Even Urgent, which I really got sick of early on. And I remember, like, when this album first came out, I'm like, oh, saxophone solo in a rock song. No. Now I'm like, yes. It works.
Yes.
Yeah. Woman in Black is good. Girl on the Moon is good. Luann is fun. I mean, this is just a really fun, accessible melodic rock album from them, and there's a reason why it sold so many copies. And it's still really good. I like it, but I like the deeper cuts better than I like some of the massive hits on there, other than Jukebox Hero, which is amazing. So yeah, that's my number 4.
It's safe to say that everything from this point is great. Foreigner. Yeah. Everything from this point, even Agent Provocateur, I think is good. So for my number 4, I'm going with Head Games. 1979. Dirty White Boy. What a cool riff. What a cool song. Again, with that, that sporadic kind of choppy solo, but again, works fantastically in this song. Love on the Telephone is great. I'll Get Even With You is also very cool. The title cut, of course, is awesome. I also like Do What You Like. Beautiful vocal melody on that. That's a beautiful song. The highlight for me, though, on this record is the lyric, I'm not an appliance, so don't turn me on. That's the highlight for me. I remember listening to that. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. The song's, Blinded by Science, right? But just it's a really good record. Like that. This is where the golden era, right? This is the golden era, 1979. I mean, there's still, you got the heavy guitars, you got the cool riffs, you got Lou Gramm just belting it. I mean, just a fantastic record, Head Games. So that's my number 4.
Nice. So this is one that's moved up for me a little bit. I went with 4 for my number 3. So I really like Girl on the Moon, kind of dark ballad, spooky. You got Woman in Black, which is like poppy but heavy, a little bit Billy Squier in that one. Luann, like Pete says, is really fun, poppy, cool tune. And yeah, Urgent, I think, is amazing. Jukebox Hero, I always hated as a kid, but now I kind of like it. I just don't like that sort of schmaltzy rock and roll hero, kid trying to make it story. But yeah, the deep tracks are good on here. Waiting for a Girl Like You is pretty decent ballad. Don't Let Go. Kind of classic Double Vision sort of Foreigner sound of that. So 6 guys reduced to 4 on this one, right? We lose a couple of guys. but yeah, good solid album. And so I moved it up because I feel like there are 3 Foreigner albums that really are the Foreigner sound in a big way, like all the things you're going to like about this band. Because frankly, even though they sold millions and millions of records, they're the sort of formula is not that likable. I don't even know what you call the formula. Corporate rock. It's just safe. It's weird. It's very conservative, right? So if you were to do an elevator pitch on this band, I don't know if it'd sound all that exciting, but there's just something abstract and magic about, I think, a trio of Foreigner albums, and so those are the ones that are going to be in my tops. Number 3. There you go.
Okay. All right. What's your number 3, Pete?
Head Games, number 3. Yeah, everything you said. Just good, gritty, poppy, hard rock, whatever the hell you want to call this. Roy Thomas Baker producing. I think it sounds good. I love the title track. Love on the Telephone is so good. Woman is great. Dirty White Boy is so good. It's, to me, it's not quite as good as the first 2 albums, but to me, it's part of that kind of 4-album run that I think is pretty damn special. Rev on the Red Line is so good. Great anthem right there. So yeah, really like it. I remember when this album came out and we're like looking at the cover. My cousins turned me onto this band and they're like, oh yeah, here's the new Foreigner album, but don't look too much at the cover. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. All right. That's kind of interesting, right? So meanwhile, teenagers right at the time, right? So yeah, Head Games. Number 3.
Alrighty. So my number 3 is Double Vision, 1978. Again, these guys know how to start an album. I mean, Hot Blooded right off the hop. I mean, it's a killer song. Again, with that crazy solo that I was talking about before. Blue Morning, Blue Day, another really great catchy song. Back Where You Belong, great track with Mick singing. It's a good song. Love Has Taken Its Toll is fantastic. Double Vision, that's probably, if not one of my top 3 favorite Foreigner songs of all time. There's an instrumental on this, which I don't really care for. That was kind of unnecessary. But just a great classic Foreigner album with that great, just the what you expect to hear from Foreigner. They're in their element. That is a classic sounding Foreigner record that, I really, really dig that album a lot. So yeah, Double Vision, man. Alrighty.
Cool.
We're down to the top 2.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Double Vision as well. And I did feature this in a podcast episode about Blue albums, second albums with blue covers, and how often they're actually pretty cool. And this is from 1978, and huge album, and I think it absolutely captures the Foreigner sound, that weird. I don't know how they make themselves sound. I actually do know the answer. I can compare the way that Foreigner makes a song sound heavy to the way BTO makes a song sound heavy. Just weirdly stripped back, put the drums in the back, not a lot of hi-hats and cymbals, right? That's kind of what you get out of Hot Blooded. Also Double Vision, which is just a masterpiece of songwriting. And that's the thing. I think that's the main reason this band was so big. These songs really sound like, master classes in songwriting. Something I want to mention when you get to some of these, and even on the first album, I noticed that the songs I like that are mellow from the very early days remind me of Wings. There's kind of like a really good Paul McCartney writing quality to them. There's acoustic guitar, simple arrangements, but yeah, just banger after banger off of this. And I love Love Has Taken the Toll. Like you say, Hack, just one of the greatest mellow songs they ever did. Blue Morning, Blue Days got a little bit of a gothic spookiness to it. Just You're All I Am. Again, another mellow one that's really good. And I could do without the instrumental as well. It's too bad they put that on there, but there you go. Number 2.
Mick's guitar tone on that record, I gotta mention, man, that's like the perfect Les Paul Marshall tone.
Yeah.
Like on his, like he's got the percussiveness going. He's got that creamy quality, man. I just absolutely love the sound of the guitars on that record.
Interesting. Yeah.
Alrighty, what do you got for number 2, Pete?
Number 2 is number 2 from them.
Double Vision, number 2.
Vision, yep. Hot Blooded. one of the great album openers of this time period. I think Hot Blood is an amazing, amazing song. Blue Morning is great too. I think Martin was talking before about how even like their heavy songs, you want like what makes them heavy. I think Lou Gramm did a great job early on in this band's career where he would kind of dial up his vocal delivery a little bit, and even if the song itself wasn't heavy from a guitar muscle perspective, I think his more aggressive vocal tone, I think, made them sound more rock and heavier than they were. Because this guy could flat out sing in his heyday, man. He was one of the greats.
He was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I love this album. I think it's great. The title track is so good. Spellbinder is really good. I mean, there's a lot of really good songs on here, and even the mellower songs are really good. So yeah, it's my number 2.
Alrighty. Well, this one for me ranked a little higher than you guys, but I absolutely love Foreigner 4. Remember Columbia House back in the day?
Yep.
Yeah, that was one of my picks. Yeah. Not Walmart, Columbia House. But yeah, I mean, shit, it was a huge album for these guys. I pretty much love every track on this record. Nightlife is a killer opener. It's got a little too more keyboards, a little too many keyboards. I'd like a little more guitar, but still, it rocks well enough. It's a great song. Another example, listen to the solo on there. There's that quirky character from Mick again. Break It Up, great pop song. Luann, I love that nod to the 50s, that old style rock and roll thing they do there. I really dig Luann. I always have. I mean, the album's got a lot of hits on it, but the one I want to sing aloud is Urgent. Urgent is perfection. And that song is perfect. It's like the perfect song. And then that sax solo, that Junior Walker sax solo, that just sends it over the edge. That's a song I never get tired of hearing. I love Urgent. For me, the only the weaker track on this is I'm Gonna Win. That one is probably the weakest track on here for me. Woman in Black is great. Girl on the Moon is great. Don't Let Go. It's a fantastic closer. This is almost the perfect album. Foreigner 4. Love it, love it. And it's one of those records where, because when I got it, I was so young and I listened to it, it just brings back all those memories. Being a kid, putting it on your cheesy little turntable back in the day and listening to all the songs. And yeah, I got a soft spot for Foreigner 4. Love that record.
Nice.
All right. Back to number 1.
Okay, so number 1, I went with Head Games. So this to me, I basically I love this album. I look at this track list, and it's got 10 songs on it. There's one song on it I would not have in my top 20 Foreigner songs, and that's Rev on the Red Line. Just something about it. I don't like the construction of it. Everything else on here, in all sorts of different directions, heavy stuff, poppy stuff, mixed singing. The really heavy ones like Dirty White Boy and 17. I love. Head Games reminds me a little bit of Urgent and Jukebox Hero, I suppose. But yeah, modern day, Blinded by Science. Even the mellow one, like Do What You Like on here. Again, it reminds me a little bit of Paul McCartney and Wings. Just everything sort of sits together properly on this album. I interviewed a few of the guys. Actually, how many? I've only interviewed 3 of the guys, I think, ever. But I asked them all about this album because I love this album. I just feel like it hangs together. It's gritty. It's sort of their heaviest. It was even seen at the time as a little bit almost too aggressive. And they kind of corrected a little bit because I think it took a little bit of their momentum away. It's still a massive record. But yeah, literally, I would have 9 out of these 10 songs in my top 20 Foreigner songs. Love it to death.
Yeah, it's a great record. Definitely. All right, Pete, number 1.
Number 1 is number 1. I love this. This is one of my favorite debuts of the 70s. It's so good. Martin mentioned with his choice how he would have most of those songs in his top 20 favorite songs. I feel that way about this album. Feels Like the First Time, Cold as Ice, Star Rider, Head Knocker, Damage Is Done, Long, Long Way From Home, which totally kicks ass.
Yeah.
Woman, oh Woman, At War with the World even kicks more ass. Fool for You Anyway. Honestly, now even I Need You is great. I love every song on here. Every song to me is just one banger after another. I think it rocks. I mean, everybody talks, every prog fan is like, oh, it's got Star Rider on it, their greatest prog song. Really. I guess
It's punk rock too in places too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's, to me, this is just a classic debut, up there with some of the great debuts of the era, like, Boston and all those other great ones.
Yeah.
Just love it. So many great songs, just classic stuff. First album for me. Yeah, but yeah, these album covers just.
Yeah, that album cover is terrible, man.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
Mr. Excitement, eh?
Yeah.
That is a dangerous looking rock and roll band, right there.
Yeah.
That should have been the back cover, right? It should have had something.
Yes.
Catches you on the front, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are in sync because that is also my number one. And what can you say about this record? It's one of the greatest debut records, from any band ever. I mean, right off the bat, feels like the first time at Cold Gin. Talk about a 1-2 punch right at the beginning, man. What a great start. Star Rider is cool. It's kind of like got that early 70s space vibe to it a little bit, Absolutely love Head Knocker. The lyrics are killer. That's a real catchy tune. The Damage is Done. Great listen. Even has that one. That one has a little bit. I found a little bit of prog in it. But man, At War with the World, that is a fire-breathing beast, man. That song is so good. My favorite track on this record. It's absolutely killer. Long Way From Home, another fantastic track. Love it. Even though I think Foreigner 4 is, I think, a more consistent record, this is my number one because of the exceptional songs that are on here. But what a killer debut by any band. I mean, to come out of the gate and that's what you come out with. Yeah, absolutely. And the deep cuts are just as good as the radio cuts, right? Like War of the World never got on the radio. Long Way From Home never got on the radio, and so on, right? Just a great album. Great album. Alrighty.
How many of the 9 Foreigner albums do you guys like a lot?
A lot? I would say 4.
First 4 for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. First 4 for me, I like either love or like a lot, and the rest, they're okay.
They're okay. Yeah. Like Agent Provocateur, I mean, it's got a couple of really great tracks on it, but I mean, that one's kind of close. But my top 4, there's a big gap there. Yeah. What about you, Martin?
I don't know, I'm almost leaning towards 6. I almost go all the way down to Mr. Moonlight on my list. It's kind of interesting, but I really do believe the first one sort of stands aside. The middle, the next 3 are totally their sound. The wheels start to come off a little bit of Agent Provocateur. They seem to be a little bit searching for direction. We got to tick off the boxes and have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Seems just a little forced, and then after that, they're definitely getting a little lost, right?
Yeah, to me, it just sounded like, we just want to get on the radio. We just want to get on the radio, and contemporary radio, not even rock radio, because they just kept putting out just, this saccharine keyboard laden, it's like they kept trying to write, I want to know what love is, or, and it just, and all those songs on those later records, they're almost interchangeable. I mean, they're so alike, right? It's just, yeah.
Well, honestly, Hector, this is like a deep show kind of idea or thought, but I've always been fascinated about what would make you want to make Foreigner music. Like who wakes up one day like Billy Joel? Why does Billy Joel wake up and say, I want to make Billy Joel music, or Elton John make Elton John music? Like, how do you decide to do that? And I think the only thing is like, you love the challenge of writing the perfect song, right? Like the universal song, or the song that appeals to the most people. It's almost like you're sitting down with a crossword puzzle and saying, I want to be like the Hit Factory and, the Brill Building. And it's like, well, what would be a song they're going to remember forever? Like, other than that, it's like, what makes you decide to make this kind of music? Right. It's so safe. And like a kid, I can understand what makes a kid want to make prog or make metal or whatever, right? But how does Billy Joel wake up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna write these goofy New York downtown piano ballads," right? I just don't know how you get on the path to become some of these bands.
It's like, are you writing for yourself or are you writing to sell music? Like,
Well, that's what I was going to say.
are you right? Is it for you, or are you just trying to get on the radio? And usually it works out that when you're trying to get on the radio, that's the worst music.
right.
It's usually when somebody writes,
right? Like that's what I actually avoided in that whole rant, is like the cynical answer is you want to be rich,
yeah,
or you want to you want all the women in the world, or you want to be on the radio. But the other answer is, if you step back from that, it's like is it because they just want to be remembered for the greatest song that touches the most hearts, or like the biggest demographic? It's like, does it thrill them when wide swaths of different kind of people love their music? I mean, that's another reason, maybe, right?
yeah,
It just amazes me sometimes where it comes down to that whole thing. What do they say about drummers, where they say no one ever has to make their kid practice the drums, right? And it's a dig that drummers do about piano players and things, right? It's like, no one wants to learn the piano as a kid. You're forced into it, right? And that's how you become Billy Joel, right? Nobody
yeah,
wants to do that.
yeah,
But it's like drums, yeah, like a kid loves that, right? So to me it's the same kind of thing. Like, how does Tom Petty end up being Tom Petty? Like, why do you want to do that, right?
wow. I don't know. That's a head
Yeah,
scratch.
it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around it. But
Yeah. Well, I just find that, as a listener, I would rather listen to somebody that wrote a song, writes music for themselves, and then if I happen to like it, I like it. And there just seems to be more value to it. It seems to be more honest,
Yeah.
as opposed to something like this where I got a hit song, now I'm going to write 10 songs like that song because that song was a hit, where it becomes all formulaic, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Well, the other thing, Hack, about Foreigner, which is kind of interesting, is that Mick couldn't wake up one morning and say, I want to make a band like Foreigner, because it's so abstract and strange and just like splitting hairs what this band turned out as. It's almost like it's just the magic that happened when these, how many, 8 or 9 or 10, 12 guys, 6 guys, whatever, on that front album cover. It's when all those guys came together, and that's how you get this weird thing. You get this weird
yeah.
monster called Foreigner. But you couldn't conceive of this band. It's just too weirdly normal at the same time, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like it just happened because I guess of all these talents getting together. So it's the synergy between all these guys that make that sound, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it worked. It worked originally, anyway.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really weird when you think about it, because you have you got a guy from King Crimson, you got a guy from Spooky Tooth, you got this singer from upstate New York who played in a band that sounded like Free, and a bunch of other dudes, and you put them together, and that's what you get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Alrighty, so Martin, anything you want to mention coming up?
Well, books as usual is martinpopoff.com. There's the audio podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. The new one just went up there. It was, what did I call it? 70s 70s bands. I don't know. It's about what 70s bands did a good job of being a hair metal band, put it that way. And then we've got our YouTube channel, The Contrarians.
Yep, yep. And you just did a show on the worst album covers.
Yeah, terrible metal album covers. Every
Metal
Wednesday
album.
we do a live show at 7, and it's every single one so far has been about album covers, and I think we're going to try to keep that up. So
Cool. I guess you never run out of supply, right?
No.
P, what about yourself?
I mean, the usual stuff on the channel on SOT. Martin and I will be back in action on Friday morning, and we've got kind of a follow-up to our show last week. So this week will be in name only albums. So those albums that have a name of a band we all know and love, but when you really listen to the album, you're like, that's really only a Genesis album because it says Genesis on the front. It doesn't really sound like a Genesis, that sort of thing. So yeah, so we'll have a whole host of those to talk about on Friday.
Cool. So, folks, if you want to help support the channel, there are links below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thumbs up would be great. Share the show if you'd like. That'd be also much appreciated. And check out my original music. My latest song is Heavy. It is up on my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see it right there. Give that a listen. And I want to thank these gentlemen once again. And we will see you all next month for another album ranking. Take care, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.